The subgenre of small, lovable but terrifying puppet creatures run rampant in the 1980s, with such films as Critters, Ghoulies, Munchies, and Hobgoblins. But the film that started this craze and the most fondly remembered was 1984's Gremlins, that not only became a beloved Christmas classic, but also partially responsible for creating an entirely new film rating system. Greetings all you movie junkies and entertainment lovers, and welcome to another retrospective video. Today we're going to be talking about Gremlins. The film begins with Randall Peltzer, a struggling inventor who, while visiting a Chinatown, discovers a strange, small but cute furry creature known as a mogwai in an old antique store, where the owner refuses to sell it to Randall, but his nephew secretly does later on, but tells him that there are 3 rules he must follow in order to keep it safe. Randall then takes the mogwai home for his son Billy as a Christmas gift, naming the mogwai Gizmo, and telling him the 3 rules he must follow. Those being keep it away from bright light, especially sunlight which will kill it, don't let it come in contact with water, and most importantly, never feed it after midnight. But later, Billy's friend Pete accidentally gets Gizmo wet, which causes 5 new mogwai to pop out of his back. But unlike Gizmo, these new mogwai are mean, mischievous, and have a leader named Stripe, who later tricks Billy into feeding them after midnight by tampering with his alarm clock, which makes them evolve from furry adorable mogwai to malicious reptilian gremlins, who attempt to terrorize Billy's mom, who is able to kill 3 of the 5 new gremlins. Billy then shows up just in the nick of time to save her by decapitating one of the heads, which burns in the fireplace. However, the leader Stripe is able to escape, and after jumping in a swimming pool spawns an army of gremlins that soon begins terrorizing the entire town. The film was written by Chris Columbus, produced by Steven Spielberg, and directed by Joe Dante, with the gremlins themselves being designed by Chris Walas. The film was released in 1984, where it became the 4th highest grossing film of the year, behind Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Wow, that was quite the year, huh? The film, of course, is most famous for its iconic blend of horror and comedy, somehow managing to get the perfect balance of the light-hearted joy of the Christmas season with the chaotic nature of the gremlins themselves. And no other film has ever quite managed to match the same tone of Gremlins, the closest being the 2015 film Krampus, which was very heavily inspired by Gremlins. The film is often credited as being responsible for the creation of the PG-13 rating, as when the film was released, it infamously received many complaints from parents believing it to be a family-friendly film similar to something like E.T. And to be fair, it was kind of marketed like that. So in a response to the backlash the film got from parents, as well as a similar response to his previous film The Temple of Doom, Spielberg suggested to the Motion Picture Association of America that they create an entirely new rating, which became the PG-13 rating, created for films not appropriate for PG, but not mature enough for an R rating. The controversy over the film's marketing and rating ultimately only managed to propel it to even higher successes, leading to the film becoming a massive merchandising extravaganza, as well as a beloved classic. And so with the massive success of the film, Warner Brothers immediately asked Joe Dante to direct a sequel, to which Dante declined, believing that a sequel was unnecessary. But after multiple failed attempts to get a sequel off the ground, the studio later returned to Dante, offering him complete creative control and triple the budget of the original film. Dante accepted, taking the opportunity to put his own personal influence into the movie and to make a completely unconventional sequel that would both satire the original film and sequels themselves. The result was Gremlins 2: The New Batch, released in 1990, 6 years after the release of the first film, with most of the original cast returning. After the death of his owner, Mr. Wing, the mogwai Gizmo gets abducted by some scientists who work at a lab in the Clamp Center, a state-of-the-art high-rise building in Manhattan owned by an eccentric billionaire, Daniel Clamp. Gizmo is later rescued by his former owner, Billy, who now works in the building as a concept designer. Once again, Gizmo gets wet and spawns a new quartet of mogwai, who later eat at the building's food court after midnight, becoming Gremlins, and later calls fire sprinklers to be set off, spawning a whole new army. Legendary makeup effects artist Rick Baker would take over creating the Gremlins, under the condition that he would make them more diverse, giving each a more signature and individual design. This was represented in the film itself, as when the Gremlins get into the lab, they begin drinking various genetic serums that create new forms of Gremlins. We get a vegetable Gremlin, a bat Gremlin, a female Gremlin, a spider Gremlin, an electrified Gremlin, and my personal favorite, the brain Gremlin.
I think there are some fascinating ramifications here for the future.
Gremlins 2 is not just a sequel to the first film, but also a partial parody of it as well, such as referencing the complaints from parents and having real-life film critic Leonard Maltin, who trashed the first film, appear in a cameo to repeat his criticisms before being attacked by Gremlins. But perhaps the most infamous part comes when the movie's film breaks and the Gremlins begin making shadow puppets on the screen, followed by a cameo from Hulk Hogan, who tells the Gremlins to resume the film.
If I were you, I'd run the rest of Gremlins 2 right now! Sorry folks, it won't happen again.
And that's just some of the notable moments. Gremlins 2 is chock full of other great characters and set pieces, making its pacing run at lightning speed. One of my personal favorite side characters, though, has to be that of Grandpa Fred, who is a failed news anchor turned horror host, loosely based on Al Lewis's Grandpa Munster, who finally gets his big shot after reporting on the rampage of the Gremlins. The thing that's most impressive about Gremlins 2 is that it's somehow able to get the balance right between being both a sequel and parody of the first film, in much the same way the first film was able to balance being both a horror movie and a Christmas movie, managing to be a phenomenal sequel to the first film whilst also having its own identity as well. But unfortunately, when the film was released, it did not meet the box office expectation standard of the first, making only 40 million, unlike the first film's 200 million taken. The film's meta sense of humor and 6-year gap between movies was likely the main reason for the sequel not connecting well with audiences and critics of the time. But over the years, Gremlins 2 has gained new appreciation and is practically just as beloved now as the first film. Some, including myself, even slightly preferring it to the first as well. So with Gremlins still being a beloved classic and the sequel finding new appreciation, it has continued to be culturally relevant, with rumors of a third film persisting for years, and then finally a new animated prequel series called Gremlins Secret of the Mogwai was premiered in 2023, with a second season on the way. So it's possible a new Gremlins movie could be on the horizon, but preferably they would stick with practical effects for the Gremlins themselves. Thanks for watching this retrospective. Be sure to subscribe for more videos, and until next time, be sure to consume as much entertainment as humanly possible, because you never can tell. There just might be a gremlin in your house.